Before becoming one of the most successful YouTubers ever and selling over $150 million in merch sales, Danny Duncan was sleeping on couches, trains, and even going on Tinder to meet girls just so he would have a place to stay. You're not going to want to miss this come up story. Danny Duncan has a come up story that is very unique. Growing up, he always was a great athlete, and he knew one thing: he wanted to be rich. Danny was a very talented baseball player, runner, and track athlete, and growing up, he thought that this would be his ticket to becoming wealthy. Unfortunately, Danny's athletic career ended after high school, and one of his hobbies was skateboarding. He knew he was never good enough to become a professional skateboarder. He was much better at other sports, but he immersed himself in the skateboard culture, and this would end up being one of the best decisions ever, which led him to stretching skateboarders. I know from the outside it doesn't seem too glamorous, but if you think about it, skateboarding is extremely hard on your body, and as Danny has said, he noticed most of them when they're not skateboarding would just party and eat crappy food. Someone had to give skateboarders some love, and that was Danny. This would end up linking Danny with professional skateboarder Zion Wright, and Danny worked with Zion on stretching and mobility. Word started getting around and Danny started getting more clients, but he just charged them an Instagram shout out for his services, so he would have to work a landscaping job to make ends meet. This gave Danny even more motivation because he hated landscaping, but it provided him income to travel back and forth from Florida to LA. He wasn't making money while he was in LA, but he was starting to grow a following. His first trip, he went from 1,000 followers on Instagram to over 5,000 followers. When Danny would travel to LA, he couldn't afford an Airbnb or hotel, so he had to resort in sleeping in cars, on trains, and the most savage method was hopping on Tinder to meet girls so he could crash on their couch. Danny does not lack creativity, and if I ever become homeless, I am definitely going to have to use this method. But if you're enjoying this video at this point, make sure to subscribe and like this video so I don't go homeless. And if I do, you won't miss the Tinder challenge video. After gaining more of a following, Danny would start a YouTube channel and begin uploading videos. He was gaining about 100 subscribers a month, and it was steady growth. Danny knew that if he just simply kept uploading videos, he would make it. He had a cool boss at his landscaping job who would actually let Danny record while he's at work if something funny was happening or if there was just an opportunity to make something funny happen, and Danny was good at that. He was so good at being funny that not only was he starting to gain more of a following, but he also got a big confidence boost when actor Jason Lee told Danny that he was funny, which meant a lot to Danny at the time.
Anyway, that Jason Lee guy was like, he's like, yeah, you're funny. I think you could do well, do acting, you know? He's told me to do Instagram and YouTube. So he was like, if you have followers on Instagram and YouTube, it's easier to get like a gig with an audition.
Yeah.
So that gave me a lot of confidence to just like never give up really on it.
That's wild.
And I was like, well, if he thought I was funny, then maybe I'm funny, you know?
It is one thing for friends and family to tell Danny that he's funny, but when hearing it from someone who's doing what Danny wanted to do, acting, it was a big deal. Danny got some great advice. However, although he was starting to get a small following, it was not enough to make ends meet. But a guy by the name of Chris Chan saw the potential in Danny, and Chris was also a smaller creator at the time. Chris reached out to Danny to see if he wanted to collab, and Danny was definitely down because not only was Chris a super cool guy, but he also lived in LA. The two became best friends and started making videos together, and Chris allowed Danny to stay with him. When Danny's birthday rolled around, Chris bought him a car, a used 2002 Honda Civic.
It was my birthday. We pulled up to his house, and then I remember he just gives me a card, and I open it and stuff, and then it was like it was for like a used car, and it was like, I don't know.
I remember giving him the voucher, and then we went to my local Bank of America and pulled out $3,000 in cash.
Chris saw how motivated Danny was to work extremely hard and to make it on YouTube, and would do damn near anything to make it work. Danny had a car now, which was huge because not only did he have a means to travel back and forth to Florida, but he also could keep all of his clothes in the car and sleep there when he needed to when he didn't have a place to stay. He was finally starting to make money from YouTube AdSense. However, he needed $2,000 to secure an apartment in Los Angeles, and the YouTube money was not cutting it. So this is when Virginity Rocks comes into play and Danny Duncan's merch company is born. Danny saw someone wearing a t-shirt that said Virginity Rocks, and he thought that the slogan was great and had several different meanings behind it, at least in Danny's eyes.
I was Googling it, trying to find where I could buy one, and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie and say I came up with it, but
Yeah.
I was trying to find it, I couldn't. The design anyway was whack. I didn't like the design.
Yeah.
So I was like, I already had this like logo, this font I liked. So I was like, had my graphic artist dude. I was like, yeah, put that font, and then let's use like college school colors.
Yeah.
And I just did like a USC colorway and like a Pittsburgh Steeler colorway.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we dropped those shirts, and that's how it happened.
He did his first merch drop on his channel, and he made that $2,000 that he needed for the apartment and $28,000 on top of it. A total of $30,000 from the drop, and he could kiss his landscaping job goodbye. His merch quickly not only became his top source of revenue, but also created life-changing money for Danny, and he did it all the right way. Right before he blew up, he really needed money, and he was offered $20,000 to do a sponsored video for an alcohol company. Now, Danny turned it down because he does not drink, because alcoholism runs in his family. He didn't want to lie to his audience and do the sponsorship even though he really needed the money.
I remember I had like no money, and like a alcohol company offered me like 20 grand to like do a sponsored video, but I don't drink alcohol at all.
Yeah.
So I like had to turn it down. I was like, motherfucker, dude. Like, I didn't even have like 2 grand in my bank account. I didn't have anything. And so I was like, I knew just long term, take your time, long term, it'll work out, and you'll have more money than these fuckers.
Yeah.
But I remember like watching the people do like fake pranks, and they were like making money, and I was like not making shit, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna fucking lose it. Like,
Things fortunately worked in Danny's favor, but now different kinds of problems started to surface. He decided to set up a merch factory inside his home and create, package, and ship all the orders.
I started doing it myself. It was a fucking nightmare.
Yep.
So much shit in my house, and then packing orders, like I'd pull like overnights and just pack all the orders.
Yep.
In the back room of my cousin's house. Yeah, and it just sucked, but it was cool because I started having money coming in, in different ways, not just to YouTube. And then that adpocalypse thing happened right when I did merch, so it was like my ads went down and then the merch went right up, and I was like, oh, this worked perfect. So that saved my ass.
This started to take a lot of time away from Danny's filming, so he started to outsource everything and spend all of his extra time filming. This is where he would take things to the next level when his clothing company got into the large retail store Zumiez. The Virginity Rocks brand and the I Love Hot Moms clothing is being worn across the country today, and Danny has been smart with his money by investing into real estate and other investments. He just invested in an ice cream company called 16 Handles, and he tried it for the first time and he thought it was so good, he said, I gotta own this, so he became part owner of the company. And he also didn't forget about the people who believed in him before all this success came. He was able to repay his friend Chris for the car that he had bought him by getting Chris a brand new Tesla, which was Chris's dream car.
One of the first guys to believe in me, man.
Oh my God.